So most of what we have been talking about so far has been natural selection, right? That in nature, there's various conditions that select which individuals are more likely to survive, which are not. And over time, natural selection can lead to changes in the species over time. But there's a couple other types of selection that are also important. Now, one of them is called artificial selection. Artificial selection is when, I'll grab in a sec, is when actually humans determine which individuals are able to reproduce with each other. And so humans have you have a note packet that goes with us. I gave it to you. It's the notes we were doing a while back. So humans have used artificial selection in agriculture, for example, right? The plants and the animals that humans raise for agriculture, whether that's cows or chickens or corn or peas, all of those aren't um, those don't exist in those forms in nature, right? They started off as species that humans found that had some edible parts. And then over time, humans chose which individuals they would breed together or pollinate with each other to change the species over time. For example, here's some vegetables you may be familiar with some of them: broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kohlrabi, kale. All of those vegetables, they have an ancestor plant. It's called wild mustard. And actually, humans took this plant and through this process of selective breeding, sort of changed it into cauliflower and changed it into broccoli by deciding, okay, here's some wild mustard that produces really large leaves. I'm going to take a little pollen from this and pollinate another one and grow those seeds and repeat that over and over again until eventually the leaves become larger and larger over time, and then you have kale. Or they may take a different version that flowers later, and they do the same thing. That they humans eventually turn into broccoli. And so by choosing which individuals can survive and reproduce, humans can actually change species. We did the same thing with corn. This is the ancestral plant, the wild plant that eventually humans transformed into modern corn. It doesn't look, when you look at the fruits of this teosinte is what it's called, and you look at the fruits of these tiny little things, they don't look at all like corn. But at some point, 10,000 years ago, humans realized, well, these little fruits are edible. And they would take these plants that had the largest fruits, breed them together, grow the offspring, do that again and again and again until eventually they are producing these very large fruits that are what we call today corn. And so humans have done this with all agriculture. All plants, all vegetables that we eat are a product of this process called artificial selection. We did it with dogs as well. All modern dog breeds are evolved from the ancestor of dogs as a wolf, but it's humans which can take, if you take this generic wolf ancestor, humans can take the smallest of those animals and allow them to breed together. And then out of that litter, take the smallest and breed them together and repeat that over and over. And you could take a large species of dog or a large breed of dog and breed it into really small, tiny little varieties or large varieties or breeds that are good swimmers. If you take the dogs that are the best swimmers and you breed them together, you can create dogs that are good swimmers or that are herding animals. So are dogs different species? Is a lab a different species from a Chihuahua? Or are they the same species? What do you think? Is a golden retriever and a poodle the same species? Jordan? Right, that's the definition of species that we just talked about. Yes. You can mate a golden retriever and a poodle and get what? A golden doodle, right? Or so all dogs actually can interbreed with each other. So they're all still the same species. They're different kind of varieties, different breeds are what we call them. And that's humans have produced all modern dog breeds have been produced over the last few hundred years by humans selecting which ones they're going to breed together. And that's why, like, I don't know, when I was a kid, there weren't golden doodles that people like knew about. They maybe existed, but those are breeds that people have sort of come up with in more recent times that, oh, well, let's breed labs and poodles and get a labradoodle or whatever. So humans have done this. Humans have created these different breeds of dogs through this process of artificial selection. So I'm just going to show you a couple of videos about artificial selection. No, not this one. This one.
Dogs vary in all sorts of interesting traits, colors, hair textures, sizes, behaviors that are interesting and useful to humans. DNA studies suggest that all those different modern dog breeds are derived from wolves. Wolves have lived near humans for thousands of years. And the earliest archaeological evidence of domesticated forms of wolves or dogs is found about 10,000 years ago in human settlements. At that time, the skeletons of domesticated dogs looked fairly uniform and similar to wolves. By the time of the Egyptians, you can see these specialized breeds being developed that have long limbs and long muzzles. That breed actually still lives today in an ancient breed called the Saluki. Other breeds have been developed for hunting, retrieving, herding animals. Pointers and retrievers and sheepdogs are great examples of taking ancestral tracking and hunting behaviors that were present in wolves and turning them in to selected behaviors that are useful for humans. So how is it possible to take an ancestral animal and turn it into this broad diversity of different forms? Let's actually listen to a couple of human dog breeders describe how they look at an animal and how they decide what it is they want to do.
I think that his neck is a little bit too short. He's got great strength in the neck, but I'd like to have it just a smidgen longer. I also would like to have a little more muscle definition in the rear.
We really enjoy the ability to take the gene pool and use it like paints. It's our art. This is my art. I made this beautiful dog that I enjoy. I made her. I chose her sire and her dam. I chose several generations to make this beautiful dog. I'm very proud of her.
So that's what dog breeders do. They pick the parent dogs that they want, like the traits of, mate them together, and the offspring hopefully have those traits. That's how they develop new breeds of dogs. Oh, did I not take attendance?